Would you say that this object is a charged object?
Not right now.
Not right now. Okay.
Well,
Can we charge it?
Yes. Yeah.
You sure?
It's charged. It's just a neutral charge. Not a charge. It's either positive or negative. In this case,
So we have some charge going on now?
yeah.
Okay. Why is it hanging on the board? The board wasn't charged, was it? The board's always charged. It's alive. It needs more charge.
Let's try it.
Gravity wins. If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Use a bigger balloon.
There we go. Use a bigger balloon. I can hold more charge. Now, if something's charged and we go and touch it, what tends to happen?
It's discharging.
It gets to be a shocking experience, right? Now, all matter, of course, is made up of very small particles. We call them subatomic particles, and atoms. Atoms are made up of subatomic particles. We call them protons, neutrons, and electrons. Who can tell me what the charge on a proton is?
Positive.
Positive. Who can tell me what the charge on an electron is?
Negative.
Negative. Who can tell me what the charge on a neutron is? Neutral. Neutral. Horse walks into a bar. Bartender. Completely wrong, Joe. A neutron walks into a bar. I ask the bartender, how much for a drink? Bartender looks at him and says, for you, no charge. So protons are positively charged. Electrons are the weird ones. They're negatively charged. They're always talking about negative stuff. And neutrons are neutrally charged. Neutron, neutrally charged. So a little bit of mnemonic devices to try and help you remember things. And so as I said, we are talking about the law of electrostatics today. Now, if I take two things that are negatively charged and I bring them together, what are they going to do? They're going to repel from each other. It's just like on your refrigerator magnets. You take the north side of the magnet and the north side of the magnet and you try and put them together. It doesn't really work, does it? Not really. Now, metals, as you know from chemistry, they're conductive. And so they let the electrons flow freely. Now I've got here just a nice little rubber wand and the fur of a rabbit that was eating my garden at one point in time. He eats my food that I sweat to grow. I get to eat him, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm going to strip some of the electrons off of this rod here. And you see that the metal spindle thing was attracted to it. Again. I could actually get it to slow down and come back the other way. Now the electrons are free to move. If I take the electrons from here, what's the charge on it? Positively charged. I've stripped off those electrons. And so I've taken away some of the negative charge. In all atoms, you have the same amount of protons as you do electrons. And so if you strip some of those electrons away, you have more protons than you do electrons, and so you have a net positive charge. Now these electrons, they're negatively charged. If I bring a positively charged object near something that's negatively charged, what do they tend to do? They attract. Okay? So, like charges repel, opposites attract. If you don't remember anything else that I tell you today, that is the law of electrostatics. Like charges repel, opposites attract. You've heard the saying, opposites attract. Now, that's not chemistry. Well, it is, but it's also physics. Oh my God. Now, that was with a rubber rod and an animal fur. Now let's try a glass rod and a piece of felt. Now, it was attracted to the rubber rod, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So what happens if I do it with the rubber rod? There we go. Yeah, it's still attractive. Not quite as much.
Wait, not you.
Just slow down again. Oh, yeah, we got to slow down. So, opposite charge attract. So what charge did I put on this rod if it was being attracted by the spindle thing? Positive charging. And I take some of the charge. Now when I bring it up to this pit ball, and I let it touch, what do you think the charges are going to do between the pit ball and the rod? Okay, I'm hearing the word neutralize, I'm hearing balance. If there's a net charge between two objects, say there's a net charge on this, right? And I bring it up and I touch against a neutrally charged object. What's the net charge going to be between the two? Negative. So if I'm transferring some charge, eventually what's going to happen?
They'll become the same.
They're both negatively charged now, aren't they? And so they're repelling. I don't know if you can see that.
They don't like each other anymore.
They don't like each other anymore. They're like two girls fighting over the same boy. They used to be friends. Guys don't do that. Alright, so here's the Van de Graaff machine. Why am I getting shocked? Because I'm building up the opposite charge? Now I'm going to move away from the outlet because it's trying to shock my knee. It has done it before, it hurts. Now, we are building up a charge on the Van de Graaff machine, aren't we? As you can see, I'm getting a little bit electrified. Shocking. I'm getting tired. Now, front row. Since you were so nice as to sit on the front row. I want to be mean. I am.
There was a reason I didn't sit up there.
Did I even touch you? Did I shock you? But I didn't touch you. Now, when we talked about forces, we talked about a lot of things that had to be touched, didn't we? Now, in order for me to move the chair, I have to touch the chair, or the desk, excuse me, and move the desk, don't I? But some of you might be able to hear that little shocking. I don't have good insulation on my feet, so yes, my feet are getting shocked from time to time. Now, did I touch you? Okay, so this is one of our examples of a field force. We talked about gravity already, and gravity is also a field force, right? You don't have to touch the earth for it to pull you down. Just like with electricity and electrostatics. You don't have to touch it for it to shock you. As you may have noticed, let me discharge here. There you go. I don't have to touch it, do I? Now here's a really cool thing. I take an object made of metal, that has a little point on it, and I put it closer to my hand.
So the charge going to the tip of the can through your hand?
What's that?
Is the charge going to the tip of the can and through your hand?
Do you hear it discharging at all?
Yeah. You don't hear the whole.
Oh, there we go. Now we got it from discharge. That's the first time I've got a pen to discharge. Ben Franklin is actually the guy that came up with this idea. He saw that, hey, opposites attract, like charges repel. And an interesting thing about the charges is if you have a nice little point on any object, the charge starts to build a nice little point. And what actually happens is if you've got a lightning storm going on, it's got a negative charge building up on the bottom layers of the clouds. And so all the positive charge in the ground all the charges in the ground shift around so that the positive is closer to the negative, because positive likes negative, doesn't it? Negative doesn't like negative. So positive likes the negative, and so it comes up. Now, during Benjamin Franklin's time, the tallest buildings in the town tended to be the churches. And people believe that, well, the church is the house of God, lightning strikes must be the wrath of God. But the churches were the ones that kept getting struck with lightning. Why would God strike the churches where everything's hunky-dory? They're not drinking, they're not they're not smoking, they're doing well. Now the same kind of thing is going on here. Is we've got a charged balloon. The charges inside the door here, they are rearranged. This door is still neutrally charged. So we have just a shifting. This is what we call polarization. We're not charging the door, we've just polarized it. We've shifted the charges on it. The same thing happens during a lightning strike. Well, Benjamin Franklin got here. Well, if you take a pointed object, such as my pen here, all the charge tends to start to accumulate there, but this is a very small surface area, isn't it? And if you got a bunch of positive charge accumulating right up in here, you got more positive charge trying to come up because it wants to get to the negative charge, it's going to start leaking off that positive charge. And what that actually does is that positive charge prevents lightning from striking. As you saw here with the Van de Graaff machine, I can put my hand next to it and I want to get shocks. I put my pen between my fingers that it's actually closer, it's not getting shocked anymore. Now Benjamin Franklin, he put this on his church, and that was the kind of church where they could drink, they could smoke, they could hang out with frivolous people. It was all right. And so Benjamin Franklin's church wasn't getting struck by lightning. So that kind of put a damper on the idea of, okay, well, lightning must be the wrath of God, right? Yes, no? Maybe so. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I've got a little device here. It's got little marbles in it, if any of you can see them. Metal on the top, metal on the bottom. They're not connected, these two pieces. Now again, it's not touching. You have to do it. Oh, I had it earlier today. Maybe if I get away from the outlet where I won't. There we go. What sorcery is this? Okay, as soon as I touch the one hanging up on the top, I ground it. These little balls, they're picking up some of the charge. They're metallic, but then this guy's also picking up the same charge from our Van de Graaff machine. Now what do light chargers like to do? They repel. And so they pop up here, they get up here, they might lose their little bit of charge, and gravity pulls them right back down. So they just kind of keep popping up and down for a while, right? So when it's initially not charged, as you can see, the pitfall is attracted to the wand. If you let them touch, we have some charge exchange. Because the pitfall is neutrally charged, all the charges from the rod want to spread out as much as they can. And so it will start to take on some charge. And as you can see already, the pitfall does not want to come in contact with the rubber rod anymore. Now the same amount of material is still in there. Charges are still there. We still have the same amount of protons and electrons between the resistor, the rod, and the pitfall. It just moves around. Charge is also conserved. And that's also part of the law of electrostatics. It's also, it has its own special law called the law of conservation of charge. We've talked about law of conservation of energy in here and the law of conservation of matter. It doesn't change, it just gets shifted around, it gets moved. Do you guys remember the law of conservation of matter? Yes. Yes? What is the law of conservation of matter?
Cannot be created nor destroyed, changed. or
What
changed.
can't be created nor destroyed?
The energy. in that.
So we could change its form, but we can't make new matter and we can't destroy that matter. We just change its form. What about the law of conservation of energy?
Yeah, same move.
Same thing, but with energy, we could change its form. We put mechanical energy into rubbing our hands, so everyone rub their hands. And what kind of energy do we get out of it? Heat. Or heat. Heat is an energy. We have that frictional forces, as Jared just said. We have frictional forces converting that mechanical energy into heat energy. That's why we live in Brigham City, it gets pretty cold during the winter. You walk outside for a while to keep your hands warm, you rub them. Use some of that energy in your system, and you convert it to heat energy to warm you up. Now, can I have a volunteer with some nice, long, blonde hair? Come on.
For both.
Can you do your ponytail, please? Go ahead and stand on that. Try to make sure that you're not grounded or dying. Ground is always a bad thing. You can't hang out with a friend. Go ahead and put your hand right on the ball there. Okay. And out. Yeah. And check. What's going on with her hair? Right. That's actually going pretty quick. Why is her hair starting to stand?
These are annoying charts. All up in the same negative charge.
It's all plugged in the same negative charge. The electrons from the Van de Graaff machine are coming into her because she's in contact with the Van de Graaff machine, and it's going to her hair. It's spreading out as much as it can. And it's actually that electrical force repulsion is now defying gravity. Now it's working against gravity, making her hair stand on end. It's big enough to start to undo that gravitational force. But force. You can step down now. Charge yourself. I was quite shocked. I must agree. The last thing I want to show you is again this electric field that's going on. It's interacting with this electric field that's emanating off. You can see can you hear that? A little staticky noise going on? Yeah, that's because my hands are now interacting with the field. I have to be careful with my watch. If I get too close, that electrical force is enough to jump off and give me a bit of a shock. Any questions?